Okay.
So we should be live on YouTube and Facebook.
All right. Look how light it is outside. I love it. Spring is in the air.
It's going to play a little bit of havoc with the and we don't have Pottstown NAACP. That's from last time. I'm gonna take that down.
Sorry, folks, we're a little
discombobulated.
We had a lot of activity. People were stopping by to say hello, and then at 5 minutes of, we realized we hadn't set the camera up yet. And by we, I mean Matt, and because I don't do anything, I can set up the microphones. That's about the extent.
Set up some of the
I do. I pull the stuff out. I try.
It gets done. And then somebody took the base off of the camera last night, so my camera base is now on the camera a bit blocker. Yeah.
Yeah, but nice crowd down here at Pottstown United Brewing. Come on down.
Yeah, I see some Porchtonians in the house. There's also some people that you'd recognize from around the community. So I got a bunch of contributors.
Table back there from Montgomery County Community College.
That is correct.
Enjoying a little happy hour action.
Yes.
And then I don't know those other folks that walked in that were familiar with the show, but I don't know who they were.
Yeah, her name's Gretchen, right. And she's one of, I met her through William Paul Barogli, Esquire. And her and I thought that her and I had traded mushrooms for fish, but apparently
it was a one-sided barter.
I got the mushrooms and she never got the fish.
She's still waiting.
So, trout season's getting ready to open up, so I'll hit her up this season. A little bit delayed barter.
Yeah. You're good for it. We know you're good for it.
Emanuel Wilkerson is with us here today.
Oh.
You are the candidate for the 24th district, the 24th senatorial district.
Yep.
And one of your platform positions, you're going to be talking about the environment and outdoor type stuff, right?
Yeah. That's one of the important points for us, but for our community and for the district.
Right.
All right. Do we have Emmanuel close enough
Can we
to
hear?
Yeah, you want to get that mic a little bit closer to you, and then I can.
Okay, I was going to do that booming voice.
Do it. People need to know that you.
No, I got it here.
That you have command of the microphone there.
I have. Yes. I was trying to be soft with it, but I didn't.
I've heard you on the microphone.
Yes, I know.
I have heard you with
so
a megaphone.
I'm gonna bring the bass.
Bring the bass.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring the bass.
So, can we talk for a moment about 60 Minutes on Sunday?
Yes.
So, for those of you that didn't watch 60 Minutes on Sunday, they did a piece on the death of small newspapers and the death of the free press generally at the hands of vulture capitalists, as I call them, and featured our own Evan Brandt, who has become somewhat of a poster child of, he's been featured in the New York Times and on Hassan Minhaj on his show with the same story. So we were watching it on a delay. We had it on our DVR, so we started watching it about a half an hour late. But let me tell you, my phone was blowing up. I had so many people texting, like, "Oh my God, I just saw you on 60 Minutes" for 1/2 of 1 second.
But it was powerful.
It was powerful with Amy and I, with our Amy shirts on, and a beautiful B-roll footage of Pottstown's 4th of July. They had a good shot of the NAACP group with their yellow shirts marching, and it was just really exciting to see our 4th of July celebration, which is like, Americana at its best. So that was very exciting. And of course, Evan did a great job, and it's a really sad story. And if people are not concerned about the death of free press in America, they should absolutely be concerned about the death of free press in America. And they gave some examples during the story about what happens when local governments go unchecked, when there's nobody reporting on what's happening. They gave one example of a local municipality where the manager or some official had given themselves an $800,000 pay raise.
Yeah, and there was no one there to challenge the vote. Yeah,
there's nobody there to challenge, nobody to report on it. And absolutely, local governments and school boards behave differently when they know local media's in the audience.
Everybody behaves differently when they know somebody's watching them, right? Everybody does.
Right.
And I think even what that showed was not even just the transparency and the power that local press has in our democracy, but the social influence of the coverage of NAACP events. When it came to New Hanover Police Department, Evan was instrumental, not only just telling the story, but holding institutions accountable for things like that.
Or what happened here with the YMCA,
with the YMCA,
right? That those kinds of things that and if you read Shandy Hill's book, Dear Sir, You Cur, if you've ever read that book that he wrote, he talks about how the paper was affected all of these changes. They affect things like fire codes and safety and not just government accountability, but they bring to light these issues and make things safer and better for people. So it's very important, and I don't know what the answer is. It's hard. Like, do I want to promote the Mercury and support it, knowing that money is going to Alden Capital? Certainly, we want Evan to keep having a job and keep being able to report, but ideally, I would love to see some sort of an independent free press spring up in its place. So anyway, that was just very exciting, and it was
a hero. He's a local hero. That's what Evan is, a local
hero. And that dude, I mean, he's out there like Bugs Bunny playing all the bases. He's writing the story, he's taking the pictures, he's doing the layout, he's doing everything.
Besides John Amato, I think the definition of omnipresence in the dictionary, you'll see John Amato and Evan Brandt right next to each other.
They should put John Amato on the payroll. He's everywhere, right?
Evan, Emanuel, do you have a website that you want me to put
for
up
your
on
campaign?
The screen?
So one, I would say number one, get people to follow us on Facebook. It's Wilkerson, WILKERSON. It's 4 spelled out, FOR, and then 24. And that's where you can follow us on Facebook. And that's one of the best ways to connect with us on Facebook. And then that gives you access to our website and things like that.
Right.
So what I'm going to do is once I get logged into Facebook, what I'm going to do is I will put up a link to the Facebook page in the chat comments. As people are coming in to join into the live stream, I just want to remind everybody that the chat function is open. Emanuel has agreed graciously to take questions, comments, criticism from the watching audience.
Bring the heat.
Bring the heat.
Bring the heat. If you have a question, if you have a comment, if you have an issue in the community that you'd like to see Emanuel address or find out what his position on community interest items are, put them into the chat comment. I am monitoring the chat. I will get the questions up onto the screen, and we'll try to get Emanuel to address them as much as possible.
So I want to start with a basic civics question. In the Pennsylvania Congress, what does a state senator do versus what a state representative do? So what's the differing roles between the state senators and the state representatives?
So to go back to civics in high school, similar to our federal Congress, but in Pennsylvania, it's the General Assembly. And so you have the lower house, which is the House of Representatives. And basically, with that's a whole bunch of people. We currently have about 203 of them. And those are people like State Representative Joe Cerisi. And what those folks do is same legislation to better help our communities and, the budget process, things like that. And then similar on the federal side, we have the state Senate. And their powers and their duties are similar to the House of Representatives. Some of the differs are same at the federal level is they approve the governor's cabinet positions and things like that. So they're the upper house, and one of the most significant differences is there's less. There's 50 of those.
Right.
So it's in basic civics, it's similar to the federal level.
So who, when a House bill, right? You care the HB, number whatever HB, comes to the floor, the House. The representatives vote on it, and then the Senate votes on it. Like, how does that become a state law?
So
Okay.
the bill's introduced in the respective houses. Normally you'll put it forth and then it goes to committee, and that's where all the action happens at the committee levels. And there's various committees with various interest topics. Like some of the bigger ones is judiciary, child education.
Sure.
There's the budget, but when it comes to where the money goes, appropriations. And so it goes there on the germane item or the topic. And then once it goes through the committee process, then it goes to that respective body's chamber. Then it gets voted on, amendments, stuff like that occurs. And then it will go to the opposite house where the same process would occur. And then if there's agreement, then it goes to the governor's desk for either a veto or sign. So that's the simplistic.
That shit sounds like it takes a long time.
It does.
Right? I
Really
guess
does.
things could move through if they really needed to
yeah.
move through quickly. But yeah, it all sounds like a lot of red tape.
But I think that's the beauty of it because it's multiple people with multiple ideas, different interests
Right.
coming together to represent the Commonwealth.
Right.
Represent not only just the southeastern part or Pottstown, but representing Pittsburgh,
Right.
representing Central County, Dauphin County. So that's the beauty of
Right. And just like other states, but especially in Pennsylvania, we have 3 different states within our state, right? So you've got like the eastern part of the state is a collective personality.
Yep.
The western part of the state is a collective personality. Pennsylvania, the middle part is its own personality. So you really got 3 different kinds of areas in the state. And I know other states are similar, but I think Pennsylvania, that's one of the things that makes it such a battleground at the national level and so important because you're never really sure how it can go. Right.
And I think even more when we think of that perspective, that in this district, the 24th, it's similar. You have a more urban area like Pottstown. And then when you go 15 minutes up the road, you're in a more suburban or rural area,
right.
depending on what area you go into.
Right.
And so that's also not only just the beauty of our Commonwealth, but the beauty of this district, that you have so many different
really
people
diverse
and the diversity of it. But we do have shared common ideas of what the current topics and issues are.
Right. Right.
Good deal.
Yeah.
I've just been
Civics is fun.
Yeah, you've been frantically typing away over there.
I'm typing away. I'm trying to encourage comments. I'm also trying to encourage people to share this stream out onto their news feed so that we can help get the word out about Emanuel Wilkerson's candidacy. We're going to get into a little bit of what's going on with this redistricting, which is important.
Yep.
And I think if Pottstown turns out to vote, if the 24th District Democrats turn out to vote, we have a very, very good chance of flipping the Senate here in Pennsylvania. So right now, the only thing that is keeping the Republican Party from controlling the entire Pennsylvania government is the governor. If we get a Republican governor and we don't flip either the Senate or the House of Representatives in Pennsylvania, we will have the entire Pennsylvania government controlled by one party.
Right.
I'm not interested in that.
I'm not interested in that either. And that also would affect national, right? Like if Pennsylvania internally is red, it would
Absolutely.
affect.
Pennsylvania is a swing state.
Sure.
Go back to the challenges that we saw in January 6th of 2021, right? If you remember correctly, there was other states, Texas was trying to sue Pennsylvania to flip the election results, right? They wanted to change Pennsylvania's result from Joe Biden to Donald Trump.
Right.
The Pennsylvania Republicans, there was Republicans from our area. Who supported the Texas lawsuit.
Right.
So if we have a complete government run by Republicans, there's a good possibility that if a vote doesn't go the way they want it to go, if they don't get a president that they want to get,
they'll just vote to change it.
They'll just vote to change
it.
They'll flip it.
Yeah.
And nothing's going to stop them. Now, it's going to sound like I'm picking on Republicans, but I would say the same thing possibly about a complete government run by Democrats.
Right.
Right? we have to have representation, fair representation. And I think this takes us to the point of this fair district.
Yeah.
So why don't you chew into that a little bit, and
yeah.
I'll get off of my soapbox.
Definitely. I'll talk about fair district and invest in my ability, but just to add on what you were saying, not only for the sake of flipping the seat, but we're divided as a country.
Right.
And even for some independents and people in the moderate position, they even see that happening, and they have maybe have progressive ideas when it comes to our social political climate, but they may be fiscally conservative.
Right.
So those people are part of conversation. So I think when it comes to this new map, not only does it represent the population change of Pennsylvania, but also the idea change of Pennsylvania. And most people would say, and I'm speaking only in my opinion, that this map does come close to what our state constitution calls for, fair districts.
Right.
Previously or currently, Pottstown, very urbanized area, and also, one of the last remaining small towns of Pennsylvania, in America, is split between 3 representatives.
Ridiculous.
Right. And so, and not only for that, we also live in the 3rd wealthiest county in the Commonwealth, and in way of wealth as well as population. And so, what this new map does, it unifies Pottstown into Pottsgroves, or what we call common communities, into one district, which would now encompasses Representative Cerisi's district, which he's going to go before all Pottstown and Pottsgrove for election now, minus Upper Pottsgrove. That's still in the 124th, which is in connection with Boyertown, New Hanover, and stuff like that.
So I would say that the redistricting that just happened, it corrects the gerrymandering that happened when it was all split up. Like it corrects it.
It got us a little closer to a fair district.
Right.
It got a little, in this
it never
fight, there's still more work to be done.
Didn't make sense to me that we would have Pottstown split where Matt and I live in a different district than somebody that lives 2 blocks away.
Yeah,
right.
Or even neighbors we've seen.
Yeah.
Even neighbors that may be living adjacent from each other on the street.
Yeah, or one side of the street,
parallel,
this side of the north side of the street is one and this side. It's ridiculous. So I'm glad that we've got all one. We're all in one area.
And so
district.
With those changes, we've seen a unified Pottstown, including the Pottsgroves. And then similar with the Senate district. Before the Senate district, which is represented by Bob Mensch right now, went into 3 different counties. It went into primarily Montgomery County being its biggest base, a slither of Berks, and as well as went up north into Bucks County. They fixed that and said, no, we're going to get more into Montgomery County, go more east into North Wales, Upper Gwinnett, communities like that, and then extend more west into Berks County instead of that. Just
so it goes further now
it's
into Berks.
further into, as we go as high as Long Swamp and as low as Amityville. So a good stretch of the length of.
It's a big geographic.
It is.
Right?
It is. But I think what you see in there, you see a lot of commonalities of ideology and community. Because when you think of small downtowns, you see similar to Pottstown, you have a Boyertown, a small downtown. You have rural communities like a Douglas, and you see those in places like Long Swamp and things like that. And so, this shows better representation of the ideologies and also the diversity of this district.
Right.
And that's why this district is important, because like you said, Pennsylvania is diverse.
Right.
In way of not just only ideology, but in representation. And so this district shows that.
Right.
Is
right.
the epitome.
It's important because we live here.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah. Be proud to be from Pottstown. Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah. And so on the other front of redistricting, so right now, the redistricting is in the litigation period, where the map, 30 days from when it was approved in early February.
So who drew the new map?
It's called the Legislative Redistricting Commission.
Right. So they say here's what we think is a good idea.
Yes.
And then it goes to.
So the way the Redistricting Commission is that they come together, with the data after been certified by the president for the census and all that. And then they come together. There's 5 members. Both houses leaderships come together. So it was the Senate Democratic and Republican leader, and both the House both the House Republican and Democratic leader.
Okay.
And then the Supreme Court picked a bipartisan or a nonpartisan figure who was the chancellor of University of Pittsburgh, who came and was that 5th vote and served as the chair.
Okay.
So their staffs come together, they'll discuss, and they'll negotiate the map. And then what we saw on December 16th, they put a proposal together. And then so 30 days from that proposal is public comment. So that's when the interest groups like fair districts and things like that will come forth and say, okay, here's our thoughts on the map. Regular day citizens, the NAACP, will comment on it. And then they will go with that information from those hearings to finalize that map based off of people's consensus of the proposed maps.
Right.
And then after that, once they approved it, which they did, then it goes into a litigation period. So if any, regular day citizen or any group or any legislator disagrees with that map or feels that
didn't they already have their
constitution,
say? Like
that was in the, so there's 2 says because there's still the court. So the court, so there's the litigation matter of it. So they're in the litigation period where the Supreme Court will hear cases on the effectiveness of this map when it comes to the constitutionality of fair funding. And so we're in that period. That period is actually ending soon.
Okay.
And then if the Supreme Court will rule to uphold it, or they may send it back. But most likely, with the consensus of a lot of people, Supreme Court, in my opinion, will most likely uphold the map.
And then that will be in effect for the
next cycle. Yep.
The primary, essentially, right?
So basically,
The
our
primary
representation will stay the same. So we'll have the 3 reps here in Pottstown, but we will then vote as if this new map was in effect.
Okay.
So it technically, we will be voting on the new map, so a way of election-wise, but it will technically go into effect next January.
Okay. So for the time being, when will Joe be our rep?
So
let's get down to it. When is Joe going to be our rep?
So if Representative Cerisi,
Yes.
Which we hope maintains his seat,
Sure.
then he would represent Unified Pottstown next cycle, which would be next year.
Got it. Okay.
So now that we've confused everybody with that,
Well, we didn't even get to the congressional. Look.
let's get into what you want to do. Like what's your platform?
Right.
So fair districting, obviously, and you've just given us a primer on fair
why are you
districting.
doing this crazy thing?
I know that you were involved in the fight for fair funding for the school districts. You're involved with the NAACP, so you're involved in civil rights. Tell us more about your platform.
Yeah.
Tell us what Emanuel Wilkerson stands for and wants to do for the community.
Well, foremost, let me say happy Women's History Month, because I see in the comments my mom's actually watching.
Yay!
So I would be remiss if I did not pay homage to the women who made
is your mom
me who I
Maya?
am. Yeah, my mom is Maya.
Hello,
so I would be
Mama
remiss
Maya.
if I did not pay homage to
Yes.
the people that got me here, like the Amy's and especially Mrs. Green back in my Monco days. I was
There you
always
go.
down there getting tutored by her.
Yeah.
We have Sandy Bowers here from the NAACP. So it was women who invested in me and allowed me the opportunity to get to this moment. And it was women who invested in me. So I would be remiss if I did not say that.
Yes.
And foremost, a woman that comes to mind is Fannie Lou Hamer. And this goes into why I'm running. Fannie Lou Hamer stood up back in the 60s. If you don't know who Fannie Lou Hamer,
I don't.
She was a civil rights icon. And she stood up and simply said, I'm tired. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that is where we're in now. A lot of people are tired of being sick and tired.
Right.
A lot of people are tired of hearing that we need diversity. We need young people. We need this and that. Well, the opportunity is here now.
Right.
It's now. The time is now. So we can't wait 2-3 years. We can't wait for 2024. The time is now.
Right.
The issues Pottstown is facing are not going to go away.
Nope.
The issue Limerick's facing, or New Hanover, or Upper Gwinnett, those issues are going to still be here. So the time is now. And that's what Fannie Lou Hamer was saying.
Right.
And that's the same things I am echoing, is that, when the community first came together, when I was 17, and voted me in the Pottstown School Board when I was 18, we said enough was enough. You remember that in 2018 when we lined the streets and we said enough is enough after the shooting in Florida. We said enough is enough. When George Floyd died, we said enough is enough. And so 2022 there's no difference.
Right.
And so what I'm trying to do is take my years of advocacy on a local level, or it be on a state level or a national level, take my understanding of our community, take the wisdom of people like you two have invested in me to commit that change. That's simple as that, to commit to that change. Because these issues, when we talk about not even fair funding, because I always tell people it's not fair funding, because we have a fair funding formula. It's equitable funding. Equitable funding.
Right.
Pottstown wants its money, and we want our money now.
Yes.
It's equitable.
We
funding.
wanted it. We wanted it years ago.
We wanted
but
it years
we'll take
ago.
it now.
But we'll
take it now.
our check
Yeah.
What did Martin Luther King say? He said, we want our check now.
Yeah.
He said, we want it now.
We
Our
want it
check
now.
of injustice, we want it now. We didn't want we wanted it yesterday, but we ain't waiting until tomorrow. We want it now.
Right.
And that's what people are saying, is we want our check now. And so when it comes to equitable school funding, environmental justice, because we talk about the least of these. Everybody always talks about the least of these and helping the least of these. Well, the least of these are here. Their voices, they have voices, and they want their fair share when it comes to this environmental impact. Economic opportunity. Pottstown's a prime example of what a community coming together and leaders investing in tomorrow looks like.
Yep.
I have friends. I talked to my friend Cheyenne the other day, and my friend Hallie, who is a educator. And for young parents and parents in general, working class parents, they're telling me, and we're hearing childcare. I got to pick and choose. Working my job or paying this childcare.
It doesn't even make sense to work when you're
right. Yeah, right. It doesn't make sense. And having a mom who's a nurse during the pandemic, healthcare access, an investment in that infrastructure.
So let's talk a little bit about the pandemic, right? So we know for a fact right now that the state of Pennsylvania, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, depending on who you talk to, is sitting on somewhere between $5 and $6 billion, right?
Billion with a B.
Yeah, billion with a B.
Billion with a B. There right now are debates about how to spend that money. Now, some of that money came to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania from the federal government for
the CARES
pandemic
Act
relief,
yeah.
right? And now our leadership, our I'm going to say what it is. Our Republican leadership in Pennsylvania has decided they're not going to spend that money. They're not going to put it out onto the community. How do you feel about that? I mean, how do you feel about the fact that we have $5 or $6 billion in the coffers that's just not being spent?
Yeah. So it's understandable, one, to say, okay, we got to be fiscally responsible.
Of course.
But it's
Everybody
another,
wants that.
and but it's another thing to say, kids in Pottstown, who just a year ago got counselors at all the elementary schools, you can go years without school counselors. That's the injustice we're talking about. So I simply just say the people want their check, and they want their check now of injustice.
Right.
So I think, we can get into all those political spoofs or whatever. I want to spend this money and all that. But at the end of the day, the people want their check now. And I'm in agreement with that. We need to, yes, be physically responsible, but we also need to be socially responsible.
I think I was asked about this by a person the other day, and they said, if you had that money, how would you spend it first? And I've broken this down before multiple times on Porchcast before. I think there's three main areas where I want to see that investment go, right? Rather than just to spend, let's put the money
And that's what it is,
into
an investment. Yep.
into some areas that are investment. And the way I think we can do that is by prioritizing education, healthcare, right, and infrastructure.
Absolutely.
Right? We need to educate our kids. We need to educate the future leaders of America so that they can
The leaders who are now,
take over for us, take care of us, everything else. If we're not well as a society, if we're not physically well,
and the cost of being unwell is much more than you would even put into
the disparities in the healthcare we've seen with the pandemic.
Correct. Right. So that seems to me, if we can invest some money into this healthcare and keep people well, relieve them of that burden of having to go out and worry that if one little thing happens to me, I'm done. Financially ruined. You want to talk about a way to increase American productivity? Don't force people to go bankrupt if they get sick.
Or force people to work when they're sick because they can't afford to miss a day of work.
Right. And then the last thing that I see as a priority is infrastructure, roads, bridges, right?
Yeah, we got a town that's falling apart. It's exploding from underground. It's water mains are breaking, transformers are blowing up. It's crazy.
And I'm with you all the way, Emanuel. I mean, I see this as a socioeconomic issue, but in my mind, it doesn't matter if you are rich. It doesn't matter if you are poor. All three of those issues that I just laid out for you affect
everybody.
Person.
Everybody.
Every single person is impacted by
these issues.
It's baffled my mind that we are actually arguing about whether or not we're going to spend money or develop ourselves as a first world nation in those three areas that seem to be basic areas of taking care of people.
How do you do it? So you've got this big pot of money, right? So you've got $6 billion and how do you invest it in education and keep that going? Like, all right, Pottstown is that the number that we all know is underfunded by $13 million a year,
which is
right?
Increasing every year.
So every year. So do we get the $13 million next year and then we don't get it the following year? Like we have to get it we have to be fairly funded every single year. So is there enough money to employ that formula so that everybody is properly funded every year? Like we don't want to get a $13 or $15 million influx, and then the next year, year we're back to where we were before, right? So how does that happen?
So I'm gonna first address the three priorities that you said, and I thank you for those. One, it's also important to understand that was pandemic money, so that wasn't just a one-time check, because there has been also investments that came after that. We had the Build Back Better, we had the Recovery Act, and those legislations brought additional money besides that $6 billion that we're talking about. Like right now with the American Recovery Act, the county, Montgomery County, Pennsylvania had received several $1 billion altogether when it comes to infrastructure. There was an investment to localities and states of $350 billion.
Right, and it's specifically earmarked for certain things, right?
Yes, but the earmark of it for certain things is a wide list of things.
Right.
And so when it comes to the American Recovery Act, Pennsylvania was earmarked a couple $1 billion. And then it was trickled down to the counties. So currently, Montgomery County received close to about $60 million for projects like infrastructure, like the sewer issues and bridges and stuff like that. And so the money wasn't just that $6 billion. It was more than that. It was a vast, expansive, and still, investments from our federal partners. And so, really, what it is the commitment to. Is the biggest thing.
Yeah, the commitment to following through on those programs.
We recognize that the money is there from these programs. We recognize that the federal government is supportive of these ideas and these programs and initiatives. It's the commitment to. So I'm not going to get into the weeds of we need to spend it here and that, because we recognize where the money needs to be spent. It's making the commitment to spending the money is what the conversation needs to be directed to.
Right.
And I think this is one of the areas where people who are watching or people in the public need to understand that it's their voice.
It is.
It's their political pressure.
And their money.
And right, it's their money. But it's their voice and their political pressure that's going to hold candidates like you.
Yes.
If you get elected, it's going to hold your feet to the fire. And what I would say is, rather than vote for a candidate that you have to force to make a decision that he doesn't want to make, because we're in that situation to a certain extent, vote for a guy who agrees with you and wants to achieve the same things. It's going to be a much easier task to get Emanuel to vote for school district funding than somebody else who might not be inclined to do that.
Right.
So I think that those are
That's because you were like, first of all, it wasn't that long ago until you were in it.
Even though I lost all my hair, it wasn't that long ago, but you
were in it. Like you were not just as a school board member, but as a student. As a student, you were in it, and so it's not some long ago distant remembrance. Like what it was like to be there in the school and not to have the same resources as a school district, just 10 miles away.
Yeah.
So your memory is strong there.
And even to build on it, because you asked about healthcare and things like that. We have Governor Wolf introduced programs like Penny, which is Pennsylvania's form of the exchange. We have also Medicaid. I remember what it was like when my mom went back to her nursing degree, being on Medicaid in college. And I can tell you more recently, getting COVID in the last couple of months and some of the side effects from that, I had to see several specialists. And I can tell you now, if I did not have good insurance, I can tell you now, those bills would be comparable to my college loan.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so we need to...
And also the level of care that you would have had access to would have been different.
And that's the disparities we're talking about. Where where me, I can pick up the phone and call my primary care and get an appointment the next day. Where there's some people who are waiting months on end.
Right.
And so it's not just the mere commitment, but the understanding of.
Yeah.
And I'm happy that in some of respects, I have an understanding of these disparities or injustices or some of these issues, but also on the other end, not even that necessarily the agreement, but I'm willing to listen.
Right.
And that's what we need nowadays. What do we say a couple of years ago? Listen and then act. And that's the problem. We have too many people who act without the listening.
Right.
And that's the problem because the solution for Pottstown is not going to be the solution for all the 24 districts.
Sure.
Even though the issues are common, but it's different per household, per zip code. But we should not discriminate or push away because someone's zip code.
Right. And just because somebody may live in a wealthier district, they shouldn't mean that they couldn't want it for Pottstown. You should want everything, equal for every kid.
I can tell you now, going in this district, meeting with people. Sorry, there's some Pottstown legends leaving. I had to wave too, but but going and talking to the people, either being Bordertown, Lower Southford, and stuff like that. And I'm naming these places because these people care about underfunding, even though districts like North Penn and Springford, they're doing well, and when it comes to the funding issues, but they sympathize and they understand with their brothers and sisters in Pottstown, and we need to ensure that
they do, except for that they don't want to get less.
Right.
They don't want to get less than what they're getting now.
But even some people even have admit that in the name of equity, we need to understand that we need to make sure we get it's a pie. It's a pie.
Right.
And they recognize that Pottstown needs its portion of the pie.
Right. Right. Yeah, we're not trying to make anybody suffer. Yeah. Just trying to make everybody.
It's their portion.
It's
their portion of the pie, and that's all Pottstown's asking for. And it's also those communities that recognize that.
Right. Right. And I'll just say that, even though Pottstown continually gets the shaft, it's amazing what our students and our teachers are able to do.
Yeah.
With
perseverance conquers, what we say at Temple. And Pottstown is the example of that. Perseverance conquers.
Persistence.
I think that one of the things that comes to my mind, and people talk about a lot, is this idea of American exceptionalism, right? That Americans do all these great things, and I can draw a direct correlation to that principle to here in Pottstown, right? We live in an underfunded school district. Our kids don't have the same opportunities. The teachers don't have the same resources, but we still crank out students on a regular and consistent basis that can compete with any student from even the best funded school district or even the private schools. Selfishly, I'll give an example from my family. My oldest son got a very, very good scholarship coming out of Pottstown schools. So that's the American exceptionalism that I see. And what I want to do is get people more money and get them more fairly funded so that we can really see what that exceptionalism can produce, right?
Yeah, and I think what most of these communities are not asking for, they're not asking for pity. They're just asking for their fair share.
Oh, yeah.
They're asking for their fair share.
Right.
Yeah. And that's why we use the phrase here, Pottstown Pride.
Yeah.
And they and yeah.
Oh man.
That's why you can never get us together.
You sure you want to do this?
Yeah, I'm always ready to do it because this is.
He's been talking about this since he was like 16.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Well, don't forget about us when you move on to the national stage. Don't forget about us.
But first, let's get it done in Harrisburg. Is my biggest thing. You know, people ask me what's next. I don't have a next.
It's like let's just focus on what you're doing right now.
Because you know, at the end of the day, you know, once I get to Harrisburg and I advocate for my community, and you know, like I said, if I did my job well, then you know, then we discuss what's next. But right now, it's about what we can do for Pottstown. What can we do for the 24th district?
Right.
And that's all we're coming to. And my thing is, in venturing down there, there's an energy. Like Patty Bell said, we can't go into this election not as Democrat or Republican, but we got to go in this election as people of the 24th.
Right.
And going in here with, as Patty LaBelle says, a new attitude.
Right.
We can't do the same old.
Right.
Because neither my generation or your generation are with the same old. We want change.
Yes. We got Nick Yanessa chimed in to say, nice to see younger people getting involved. He means you, certainly not us. This is how change happens. Tired of seeing only gray-haired people in politics. I concur.
Yeah.
Yes.
But we got to be committed to that change, though.
Right.
We got to be.
How do you think? What are your ideas? Do you have any immediate ideas? Have you given any thought about how you can pull some people from the other side? Because obviously you are in a district that has historically been a Republican district, right? So in order to win, you know that you need Republican votes for Emanuel Wilkerson. What do you think you can offer that Republican voter who's willing to listen to reason? Maybe that moderate Republican or the Republican that is fiscally conservative but socially liberal. What do you think you can offer that person to pull their vote come the election day?
Yeah, that's an extremely important question. In understanding that, when it comes down to it, is my experience of doing that. Being a member of the NAACP, we didn't care about what party you were in. We would care about the issue. And like we said, a lot of Republicans and Democrats are suffering with the issues when it comes to healthcare, when it comes to education.
Yeah, that stuff's across party lines.
So
I mean, the bridge that does not discriminate.
Yeah,
the bridge that falls down does not discriminate. The potholes do not discriminate.
So I think more of the answer is seeing the advocate in me. You know, in my background, working for Congresswoman Dean or now working for Rep. Bradford in their official capacity, I took calls from Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians, and who name it. And my job was to still help them get their Social Security, help them find housing, affordable housing, help them with student loan issues and stuff like that. So, you know, my background has been working with people. I'm a people person.
Right. So somebody calls and they're having trouble getting their unemployment. You're not like, well, are you red or are you blue? No, you're just a constituent and you're there to help. So
that's what I would say. I would speak to them as a person and say, you know, this is my platform. These are the issues I'm hearing across the district. And when I get into that office, I'm not like Obama said in 2004. This ain't Black America. This is not white America. This is the United States of America.
Right.
This is not red America. This is not blue America. This is the United States of America.
Right.
But I am unapologetic to my roots. But also, I understand that I am representing the people of the 24th. And that's all I'm bringing to the table. And I'm going to be unapologetic in that.
Right.
That I'm representing the people of the 24th. As long as I can get my schools funded, as long as I can get my people access to health care, as long as we can address the immediate climate change issues, as long as we can address the child care issues, who cares?
Right.
Who cares?
Do you think so? I spend a lot of time. I'm a nerd, right? I study political science, still study political science, American history, the whole 9 yards. I read this stuff for fun. But I often find that at my age, I'm a middle-aged man. I'm 48 years old. I find myself being more jaded and maybe some ways more cynical than I ever have been before. Do you think that the younger generation, your generation, suffers from that same cynicism, or is there some hope that the younger folks are going to be able to maybe not repeat the mistakes of their fathers or mothers?
I've made no mistakes. No.
I mean, how do you?
So you and Andrew and Harrison,
Right.
because you're all kind of in the same, peer group.
Yeah, they're
Are
definitely
they,
within 4 or 5 years.
Yeah,
of
are
each
they
other.
as jaded as we are, as skeptical about change being able to happen?
Well,
I know you're not, obviously. That's why you're here to make it happen.
Well, let me say this. No matter anyone's age, we all believe in social progression.
Right.
My grandma, who I'm not going to mention her age, is a Democratic committee woman here in Pottstown. She's very active. And I get my drive from her.
Okay.
I get my demeanor for not only change, but to help those from her.
Right.
So I don't think that, necessarily, all of us are stuck in our ways. I just think we're in a position, like they said, the soul of our country is at question. We're just in a position trying to see, do we go straight? Do we go back? Do we go left? Do we go right? And we just need that energy, that drive. And so I think if we approach this in the sense of not only our age, but in the sense of, hey, this is a good thing.
Right.
We can create our own path.
Right.
forward.
Well, and I think that it is important. Sometimes people can get really overwhelmed and bogged down with things being so horrible at this level, right? Like things are the nation is divided, and it's red versus blue, and it's black versus white, and it's this and that, and it can feel very overwhelming and insurmountable, right? But when you break it down, so now you get down to the local level, right, where you are, school board, borough council, local, state rep, state senator, change becomes manageable and not so insurmountable. So, okay, so that, and that's, well, it's obviously why local elections and midterm elections are so important, because that's where these things happen. These decisions happen, right? But people need to know that maybe things are really divided at the national level, but at the roots of it, like out on the street, people are people. People are not, we're not like fighting in the streets against each other, and change can happen at the local level that can feel really impactful to people's everyday lives.
But let's also remember, it's not a trickle down effect; it's a trickle up.
Right. Well, that's kind of what I'm getting at. Is that like if we can change it here at this level, then that'll trickle up to the state level, and that'll trickle up.
I agree with you, Amy, and I agree with what you're saying, Emanuel, about the energy involved in this. And really, what we're talking about is candidate, or not is, are candidates that can appeal to the populist nature of the problems that we just talked about, the problems of the common man. And to their credit, the Republicans in this last election, and the one before that, they elected Donald Trump. And one of the reasons they were able to do that was because they appealed to, or they presented what appeared to be a populist message. And I think that the Democrats, like yourself, like me, have to learn something from the way that went down. We have to be able to tap into this populist message. We have to craft and create messages that the populace, the everyday common man, is going to understand and get behind. And to be honest with you, I think the Democrats have missed the mark over, for sure, in recent times.
Yeah.
But over the past 50 years, we've seen the Democrats not be able to coalesce around those populist messages. So I guess maybe in some ways that's where I'm going from.
Of course.
And obviously you're from the street, you're from the quote unquote hood. So maybe, and I definitely agree, we need young voices with energy that can present a populist message, right?
And I think, and for me, I recognize, what's happening, but I don't accept it.
Right.
And what I mean by that is I get messaging is a thing, but that's, an overarching question for our community. I can only focus on what Emanuel for the 24th is going to do. So I get overarchingly there are messaging issues that we can fine tune.
Well, and that goes to my point. Okay, you're focusing on what you can do here, and then that will trickle up as you move up until you become president.
I think if we get discouraged because of what's happening on the macro level, we can't impact change on the micro level. That then becomes a domino effect to impact change across the nation.
That's exactly what I was trying to get at.
That's what would be my answer to it, is that I recognize what's happening. I may not necessarily accept it, but I can only focus on the movement that we are generating.
So
we're starting here.
Who are your allies in that? Who's going to help Emanuel Wilkerson get that done?
The people.
Right. That's fine. But I'm talking about name some people that are backing your candidacy that you are going to call on to create some of those messages that's going to reach the people.
So
I want
I'll give you specific
now I'm
names.
playing hardball with you. I want specifics.
Yeah, I'll give you specific names. But first, I got to put a premise on, for me, the people.
Gotcha.
But secondly, we have received an endorsement from our mayor, Stephanie. I received an endorsement from Councilwoman Trinita.
Yes,
Lindsay,
Trinita. I know she was here before because I saw all the hearts.
The legendary Mr. Pottstown himself, Mr. John Armato, and the list continues to grow.
Right.
Because I'm much older than that. But when I was 18, the town made a commitment, and I made a promise to that town. Now I'm ready. Now I'm here to follow up on that promise.
Gotcha.
So it's a community-based thing. And more importantly for me, it's the young people, it's the middle-aged people, and it's the older people. And it's all those people. So, I can name drop, I can say this person and that person, but that don't mean nothing to Uncle Sam on the streets.
Gotcha.
It's more about the neighbor. It's more about Mr. Sam lived next to Martha for 20 years, but Susan just moved in next door. It's those people that Emanuel cares about. Gotcha. So I get the name dropping, and I'm honored to stand in a class with those people. But me, as well as those people, we about the people.
Right.
So let me just.
So what are Sam and Martha and Susan? What are we doing? So other than donating to EmanuelWilkerson.com,
well, we need to get involved. We need to get out.
Right. So what is the thing that is it boots on the ground? Like I campaigned in 2016. Went knocking on doors when you go knocking on doors, you're not trying to change anyone's mind. You're just trying to get people to the polls. So we were knocking on doors and making sure that people knew where their polling place was and when election day was and all of that. So there's still a lot of people that are not registered to vote, right? We talked about this when you stopped by last week to say, before the show, we were chit-chatting. So there's still a lot of people that are not registered to vote.
And let me say that one of our missions is to change that.
Sure.
I was in the barbershop earlier. A lot of people was like, "Why is he in the barbershop? He don't got no hair. I got to maintain his beard."
You got that. Looking good.
Thank you. But I was in the barbershop earlier, and I was the dentist before that, and we were talking about that very issue. Hey, it's not just selling Emanuel. It's selling the community
and selling the duty of every person to vote.
But we got to remember there's an incentive to that duty, and we got to be willing to recognize that
Mhm.
that all of our reasons of voting different. Like my reason to vote is because I have a long heritage of people who fought to get me to where I am. Where a lot of people talk about one of the things I've seen is like voting rights is a big thing right now. And for a good portion of us,
Yeah.
Especially the people sitting at this table,
Right.
we know what it's like not to have the right
Well, it's
to
not.
vote.
It's not like the right to vote or the
Mhm.
access to voting is not some faraway long
Far away
thing. Like it was.
It's
It was
100
it was,
years ago in
yeah.
2020 was 100 years
Right.
anniversary
Right.
of suffrage.
Right. So yeah. So it's tenuous. It's not like we can't take it for granted because
Yeah.
there could be some shit going on down there in Washington that could take that away for you or for your relatives or for for a lot of people.
But then
if to bring it really home, to kind of piggyback off something I said at the top of the show, we could see that happen right here in Harrisburg.
right now,
We could see it right here in Pennsylvania. We've had lawmakers that are willing to take steps to take away your vote.
Right.
and it's not
Mhm.
like these are issues of the past; they're issues like you said
Today.
of today, and people
Right now.
want their
Right.
check today. And when I talk about check, it's a metaphor for the injustice. And injustice is something that is just not neutral to a zip code or neutral
Right.
to a group. It's across the board. And so, how people can get involved? Like us on Facebook, share our content, go on our website, sign up, knock doors, because that's the problem. They don't want Pottstown to come out. They don't want the 24th district to come out. They don't want to. They don't want to see a young black man representing this area.
Right.
But we got to show them otherwise. We got to show them that, hey, we are here, we are visible, and that the voiceless.
I'll go knock on some doors.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So we need people to sign up as well. This is a grassroots campaign,
Yeah.
so we need contributions.
Right.
We need you to go call grandmama up. We need you to go call grandpa up. Go call aunts and uncles. Say, hey,
Right.
not in the name of Emanuel, but in the name of the movement. We need to, we need to knock doors. We need to be
Right.
making phone calls. And for those who are not comfortable going out yet, postcards, phone banking, stuff like that will help get us to these finish lines. Is because at the end of the day, unlike other people, as we see in politics, who would say is that I, it's we.
Yeah.
It's we. I'm Emanuel, and it
Well, I
took
think that
Amy, it took Matt to invest in me for me to be where I
The
am.
number one reason for me to vote is, well, it's my civic duty, right? And I can, I have the ability to vote, so I can and I should, because, like you said, a lot of people fought long and hard to make that available to me,
And they're fighting now.
and because I don't have a right to complain if I don't vote,
That's the biggest thing for me.
right? So I don't
complain if you didn't vote.
If you didn't
Don't
get out
complain.
and vote, then zip it, because that's you're
But there's an educational aspect to this, because there are certain people in the population that don't even know that they have the right to vote. Like NAACP fought recently to educate people who have been formerly incarcerated with a misdemeanor, or even people who are serving, serving in the county jail, just because they can't pay bail, they still have
the right to vote.
Constitutional right to vote.
Right.
So there's people who in the population, they don't even know they can vote. So we need to also educate our brothers and our sisters.
So along those lines, Emmanuel, I want to take a little bit of pressure off you. So what I did was, for folks that are watching the show, if they go into the chat, there's going to be links to Emanuel Wilkerson's Facebook page. I also put a link to his .com. His website is up in the chat. Also, the .com, the website, is on your screen right now. If you wanted to get linked with Emanuel Wilkerson, write down that website or click on that website, save it to your browser, and go back. Find some way to get involved, find some way to help out. Even something simple as, I saw Emanuel Wilkerson on Porchcast last night. The guy has some good ideas. He's a hard worker. I like his energy. Just share that message with a friend or someone else who you know, and that can help spread the word about Emanuel Wilkerson and his candidacy. It can also help turn the 24th district blue, which is something I want to see happen, because the Democrats have a tendency to reflect more of my interest of what I want to see happen with my tax dollars, and that's education, healthcare, and infrastructure. And I would say this:
I would like to drive over a bridge that doesn't fall down.
that doesn't fall into the ground.
Or
I have yet to
that
have a reasonable and rational debate with anybody from the other side of the aisle who can explain to me why spending or investing in education, healthcare, or infrastructure
Is bad.
isn't important or
How
a
does
bad
that not
thing.
help every single person?
You won't hear, in my opinion, I have never heard a reasonable argument against it.
Right.
You hear,
Well, they
you'll
like
hear
to throw
talking
words around
points,
like socialism.
whatever. Come at me, bro,
Right.
with a real argument against how that's not going to help us as a society, how it's not going to help us economically,
Going to help our future.
et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Even if you're a war hawk and all you want to do is go to war against other countries, well, you better have a smart, healthy soldier who can drive his tank over a road to get to the battlefield.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Come on.
Right.
So
I
anyway.
agree with you. Come on. And I think for everybody that is watching, we need to get people registered and we need to get people out there.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'm gonna go back, and that as simple as that. Because that's the thing is, we recognize the issues, but what are we going to do about it? And I think that's the question of this election, merely beyond just flipping stuff. But if we don't show up,
Right.
none of our issues.
And
are
so
gonna
it goes
change.
beyond just the flip, right? After you get Emanuel elected, you have
Hold
to
them
keep,
accountable.
Yep, correct. You have to
Hold them
keep
accountable.
showing up.
Yep.
So the primary is first,
Yep,
and
May
that's
17th.
May 17th,
Yep.
right? And at this point, do you have? And is there anybody else running for the?
So there is
okay.
there is another candidate running for the Democratic
Okay,
nomination.
got it. So you have a little competition there.
So,
So that's the first hurdle,
Mhm.
right? And then general election, which is in November.
November.
Yeah, got it.
And another thing I should let people know, because when we talked about voting rights, there were some questions about mail-in ballots when it came into
Yes.
Pennsylvania.
Yep.
The Supreme Court is still hearing the case,
Got it.
but they did rule that at least for the primary in May, you can still are eligible to get mail-in ballots. The deadline, we're encouraging people to get it all in by May 10th, so
Yeah.
it gets to your county offices
Right.
in time.
Right.
So don't wait till the last
Don't wait
minute.
till
Right.
last
Get it
minute.
done
So mail-in
now.
ballots
And-
then are still available for
The May
anybody.
primary.
For anybody,
Yeah, anybody for
right?
the
You
May
don't have to
primary.
have a medical or like a student, right?
Yeah.
Like Andrew and Harrison live. You know, they can still vote in Pottstown, but they live outside of town.
But we
That's-
want them to
but
come
you're-
back.
That's
They'll come vote.
absentee ballot.
That's an absentee ballot.
That's
Sorry,
different.
that's an absentee
So
ballot.
don't confuse
Got it.
people. The
Right.
mail-in ballot is different than an absentee.
Thank you.
If there has never been a prohibition on
Absentee. So
balloting.
absentee is like, I'm going out of the country. I'm not going to be here.
I'm away at college.
I'm away at college.
Right.
Right. So those are
I work-
absentee.
I work, and my job has sent me out of town in order to complete a project.
Right.
Those are all valid reasons. I have to go to Texas
Yeah.
to take care of my mother
Right.
because her power went off.
Because they live on this
Because
crazy
they live on
grid.
a crazy grid. Those are all valid
Yeah.
reasons for
Absentee ballot. Thank you,
balloting.
Matt. I knew that there was a different terminology, but I wasn't sure exactly what it
the
was.
biggest, and to find this information, if you visit votes.pa.gov,
Mm-hmm.
again, that's votes with an s.pa.gov, you can get that information and be able to apply. And as well as we need to make sure people stay informed on their polling places, because we see
Yeah,
during COVID
yeah.
that there has been some mergers and stuff like that. And
Right.
really that information will come out,
Yeah.
reasonably a couple weeks
when I
before
was
the
knocking
election.
doors in 2016, that was a big thing because
Yeah.
there had been some changes. People that formerly voted here, like I started voting at the church on South Charlotte
Yeah.
Street. Some people were, voting at the Ricketts when they were at a church before. So it's got to make sure that people
and,
know
and
where
make
to go.
sure for those who have cars, get your neighbors,
Yeah.
get your aunts, get
Yep.
your uncles. Do not
Right.
be stingy.
Right.
I'm serious. Don't be stingy. Go
Well,
out there. And,
I think that election day should be a federal holiday.
I'm with you. And bring your kids to the polls.
Oh, we've
Bring
done
them.
that.
Yeah, I
We
know
did
you
that.
brought
We
Harrison
brought
over,
Harrison
yeah.
when he was so we still when I go to vote, Philip Tees, our judge of elections he's like, how's your little one? I'm like, well, he's 20. but from the time he was little, Levi would put him in the little backpack and take him in. And you want to demystify that voting process, because a lot of kids, the first time they vote, when they turn 18, they're nervous. They don't know what to expect. Well, what's it going to be like? So just demystify it and show them what it's like. It's easy. And
don't discourage them either. I hate when people, try to discourage young people from voting. We see that time and time again. But let's remember that it was 18 to 40-year-olds who came out and got us President Harris. And,
I don't know why anybody
Vice President Harris and President Biden.
I love when I vote. It makes me feel so good as an American and as a person that I did what I have this right. I'm going to exercise it and I'm going to use it. So 3 civic duties. What are they, Matt? Voting. Yeah. Filling out the census. Yeah. And jury duty. No. Jury duty. Well, jury duty, not everybody has the opportunity to do.
No, if you're not registered to vote.
Yeah. Jury duty is one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Taking you back to the first season of Porchcast with that, right?
Yeah, so we're a little bit after 6.
Yeah, I don't know. I just have a couple of
make a couple of announcements.
We be acting up.
Right?
I do want to remind the people watching as Amy is organizing her notes. I do want to remember. No, your microphone's in, Amy. Lean back a little bit. Anyway, her mom gets upset if she can't see her. I want to remind everybody that I put links to connect with Emanuel Wilkerson and his campaign up into the chat. You can click on any one of those links. After the chat, it's going to zoom you over to Emanuel so that you can get involved. I also put up a link to get registered to vote. From that register to vote website, you can also go to the state website that Manuel talked about before. It's going to give you all the information that you need to know about voting from the state of Pennsylvania. All of this stuff is very, very easy to find. I'll give people one last tip. If you want to find out about voting in your county, type in vote, type in these words, vote in, and then the county that you live in. Vote in Montgomery County. Vote in Chester County. It's going to bring you the page right to the top that you have to click on to find out how to vote in your county.
Right.
If you need that mail-in or you need that absentee ballot, that's where you're going to need to go. Type in the words vote in and the name of your county that you live in.
A lot easier than it used to be, folks. Right? Got the interwebs.
Hell a lot easier.
Right. I'm going to give a shout out to all the kids in the Pottstown School District for their great show. Shrek was really fun. So Matt and I were both at the gala special event.
The gala.
Matt Greenaclocker Real Estate was a sponsor. Wolf Baldwin and Associates was a sponsor. And we attended their special event with the delicious food by the Culinary Arts Program in the CTE. Yes. Excellent. And enjoyed the show. It was really great.
It was good.
The kids did a great job, as they always do.
Yep. They have a lot of talent in that program.
Yep. Okay, I'm just going to fire this off in no particular order. Members of the Travis Manion Foundation, Pottstown area veterans, and public volunteers are planning a May 14th maintenance and cleanup at Veterans Island in Pottstown's Memorial Park, one of our favorite places that we talk about a lot. So that's May 14th at 8 a.m. That is the Travis Manion Foundation, which is a nonprofit foundation which develops community programs, blah, 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 blah. And it's dedicated to the memory of Marine Corps First Lieutenant Travis Manion, who died in the line of duty while saving members of his patrol during a 2007 ambush in Iraq. So they're doing the cleanup. This project will honor the life and legacy of Jacob Beam, 20 of Pottstown. Beam lost his life in World War II and is buried in Pottstown and is memorialized on the island.
If you go back and watch the episodes that Mike Murphy has joined us, he talks about Jacob Beam and gives a little bit about his story. I want to remind everybody again, I am looking for the stories of Black veterans from Pottstown and the surrounding area. I want to make an effort to tell the stories of Black or African-American veterans from the borough of Pottstown and surrounding areas. Please hit me up. If you know somebody was a veteran, if you know they were decorated veteran, I want to hear their stories. Right. Mike Murphy and I are making a commitment to try to tell their stories, because a lot of the stories you hear, unfortunately, unfortunately, most of the stories are our white veterans.
Right.
We're hearing very little about the contribution of Black veterans from this area. I know it exists.
Sure.
We have to start telling their stories. So please get in contact with me. I'm going to put a website up on the screen towards the end of the show where people can contact me with that type of information.
Okie doke. March 5th, which is this Saturday, Pottstown Children's Discovery Center, 95 South Hanover Street, is having a Seuss and STEAM event, 9:30 a.m. Join the Discovery Center for a fun science, art, building, travel, messy, and game-filled event. Every family will go home with a new book and a pile of goodies. $7 per person or $30 per family maximum. Masks are required. That's 9:30 to 11 at the Children's Discovery Center, 95 South Hanover Street on Saturday. We talked about climate change and taking care of our Earth. Pottstown Eco Fest and Climate March, Saturday, April 23rd from 12 to 5. Earth-friendly vendors, food, rescue animals, kids' crafts, and more. So the Climate March starts at noon in front of the Hill School, and then marches down High Street to Smith Plaza, April 23rd, Saturday. And then after that, I believe, is the PKE cleanup, which is at North Hall of the Montgomery County Community College.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to talk more about those
here it is.
other efforts that are coming up.
Yep.
And there's going to be plenty of opportunity for people to participate in neighborhood cleanups as the weather turns nice.
I'm going to go off on a little tangent right now. Pottstown has a mattress problem. We have a discarded mattress problem. And I'm going to, when I get back from vacation, I'm going to make a guerrilla warfare effort on cleaning up these mattresses, which the trash provider, Mascara, will take them away. You just need to wrap them in a plastic bag. And people don't know that. And we have mattresses galore all over town. It's disgusting. And I'm going to take that on as my personal mission.
It's a health problem.
It's gross. And behind our alley, there's been a mattress there for weeks.
So what I'm hearing is that you're laying down a gauntlet,
Amy
Wolf. And if people want to try to get involved with you, maybe you could develop a little crew.
I'm going to buy a bunch of mattress bags and just go around guerrilla warfare.
But you're going to need help.
And because that's going to be some nasty.
And they're heavy.
Yeah. Well, because they've been sitting out there and they're wet.
Right.
So there's going to be a hazmat suit
There's
situation.
Gotta be a way that we can get you some help from the borough.
Oh, yeah.
This is, and if anybody's watching from the borough, this is exactly why we want to talk to Justin Keller, so that we can start brainstorming some ideas of how citizens can work with the borough to address some of these problems. I sent Justin an email. I talked to him in person. He's ducking me a little bit. If you have some influence with Justin, help us get him on the show so we can start. We're not here to attack
we're
him.
not gonna. We don't want to rip anybody out, but we just want to solve problems.
Correct.
We just want to solve problems.
We need to start talking.
And
about
I
this
think
stuff.
that you talk about the broken window theory. We got the discarded mattress problem happening here in Pottstown. It's foul and disgusting. So anyway, I actually called somebody I know that
Tammy
works.
Votnor is saying, "Go, Amy."
Yeah,
so
Tammy, I'm counting on you, sister.
She's
like
going
to
be
come help out.
Lieutenant Votnor.
Yeah. So I called somebody I know that works at a mattress store, and I asked if they have the bags that the mattresses come in, if they ever discard those, because I thought that might be a good way to get some free bags. But no, that was a dead end. But I made the call and started. So anyway, two more things. Saturday, March 26th at Steel River Playhouse at 11 a.m. is Jeff Boyer's Bubble Trouble. I don't know what that is, but it sounds fun. A bubble volcano, bubble roller coaster, kids in a bubble. It's like a bubble show.
Where's this at?
At Steel River.
Okay.
On March 26th. So go to the Steel River site, check that out. And then Edgewood Cemetery is having their cleanup and art fair on April 30th. Contact Bronwyn, go to the Edgewood Cemetery site or the Hobart's Run site, and you'll be able to get that information. I saw when I was stopped at the light at Kime Street, there's a historical marker in there now. Was there always a historical marker for that Annie Whitmore?
Yes.
That was always there? All
Yeah.
right. Well, maybe it's just because the cemetery looks so good now that I was able to.
I brought your
recognized
attention to it,
Yes.
so now it snapped it out of the background and put it right
Yes.
up in your face.
Yep. So that is just a small smattering. Because we ran over, I just focus on the things that are coming up real soon. And we're off next week because I'm on vacation.
Okay.
Unless you want to co-host.
I might find a co-host.
All right. Oh my gosh, Matt!
What?
Happy birthday!
Oh, that was yesterday.
That was yesterday. I know, but happy birthday!
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Never mind, I'm not gonna be
I have one more thing to say. I'm going to put this caption up onto the show. Amy and I, along with some other Porchtonians and contributors to society, are soliciting questions, comments, and critique. So you can ask us about the show. You can critique the show. If there's an issue around the community that you want to ask questions about, comment on, or if you want us to address on Porchcast Pottstown with some of our upcoming guests, please send those emails to pottstownreports@gmail.com.
Yes,
We're going to be
please.
having Mick Markovich, who's the chief of police, on March 31st. He's committed to come in and sit down with
Looking
us
forward to that.
about crime in Pottstown. I know that that's a hot button topic for a lot of people. If you have a question, comment, or concern,
Suggestion,
or critique,
or you want to know how you can help,
send us an email at pottstownreports@gmail.com. Chief Mick Markovich is looking forward to your questions.
Yeah.
He wants them
to engage with the community.
to engage. Correct. Please send those to pottstownreports.com, or excuse me, pottstownreports@gmail.com. Questions, comments, critique. That is also the landing page. If you know about a Black African-American veteran from Pottstown or the surrounding area and you want to tell that person's story, please contact me at pottstownreports@gmail.com.
Excellent.
This has been a very vigorous conversation. Emanuel, please come back anytime you want. If we can help you, we want to support our local boy. Our local boy done good. Right?
Well,
Small town
We
hero.
gotta support
Yeah.
Pottstown. This is a Pottstown-centric show.
Yeah.
We have a candidate for PA Central
From
from
Pottstown.
Pottstown.
It's very exciting.
Porchcast Pottstown's
Yep.
on your side,
Maybe
baby.
you guys can film there when we're getting sworn in.
There you
What?
go. We've never done that.
What?
Be live
do-
from the rotunda.
We don't do very well with on the scene. We have to, but that we'll have to kick it back to the old school.
The laugh mics.
No, just
Oh.
using the old phone.
The phone.
Yeah.
We'll figure something out.
Yeah.
We will be there if you get elected.
When?
Yes, we'll
Yes.
be there.
Yes.
When you get elected.
Yes, we will. We're making that commitment.
There we go.
Yeah.
This has been Porchcast Pottstown. Our guest tonight has been Emanuel Wilkerson for
Oh, I like how
Pennsylvania
you did that
State
with the-
Senate for the 24th PA Senate District. Thank you for the lively conversation. Thanks for everybody who joined us tonight. My name is Matt Green. I am your local real estate expert. I am gearing up for this spring and summer season of real estate sales.
Oh, I thought you were going to say fishing.
That too. My spring and summer will be primarily made up of selling houses and going fishing.
My spring and summer will be made up of throwing a giant party for the borough of Pottstown.
Yeah, right.
See you, veterans.
And we'll talk about that on the show too. But I am your local real estate expert. Please call me for help selling your residential and commercial properties. Amy Wolf is the lovely business manager at Wolf Baldwin and Associates. They have been bringing you fine legal service in the borough of Pottstown since 1973. We are Porchcast. Let's